Okay, so welcome to the fifth episode of Conceptualism. Today I have with me Carol Williams, composer, organist, and an incredible leader in the world of organ music. The first female civic organist, and thank you so much for being here with us. It's an honor to talk to you.
My pleasure.
I suppose I want to start by asking you, about your experiences studying with Daniel Roth at Saint Sulpice.
That
Um,
was fantastic. I mean, he's one of the greatest concert organists, towering figure in the world of the organ. And there's every good reason why he's there at that probably one of the most famous churches in the world. Oh, I'm sorry, that was an email come through. Probably it's he and playing that organ and studying with him was one of the highlights of my studying career. He's just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
yes,
Beautiful organ. I mean, when you sit and play those five manuals and you glance up at the facade of the organ as you're playing, it goes so high and it feels, it's quite a frightening experience being right in the middle of that organ as it pounds out the sound. It's just something else.
yeah, it's remarkable, and the acoustic in there is quite long. Like it's probably 8 or 9 seconds, maybe more. Um,
It probably is actually. I've never counted it, to be honest. I mean, it is a long way, but you're right by the organ, so you hear it, but you hear it softening. Can I stop 1 minute?
yes, of
Kind of
course.
The email is coming through, and if I do this and this,
um,
yeah, let me just get it. How do I
the
get it?
beeps, don't worry about it.
Okay. Oh, how did I? Oh, honey.
What did you do?
Sorry, I was trying to get rid of the email. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to edit that bit of movement out. Do those noises bug you?
Yeah, we can hear you can hear them. So
Oh,
if there's a way to mute the notifications, that would be helpful.
yeah.
That
Okay.
would take us a while to figure that
No,
out.
just I'm there now. How do I get rid of that?
Oh, okay. Just
Hit delete.
hit no Q.
Oh, hold on.
Look, put it on
No, wait.
stop
I got it. I
stop.
had
No,
it.
you don't. You gotta capture that
There.
and then put it on Q. It's still not gone.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay,
Got it. Sorry. If you want to redo that question, that won't happen again. Got rid of it.
No worries,
Sorry.
no worries. These things happen. When I do this, of course, I'm an atheist, but sometimes I'll join my hands and pray to the technology gods that these things will work out.
I know. It's I think the more people use it, the more frustrating the technology gets for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I guess the question was about the Saint-Sulpice organ and about Daniel Roth and your experience working with him and studying with him.
Fantastic artist. I mean, I was so lucky. I studied with him immediately after I left the Royal Academy of Music, and going to Paris and being in the tradition of the great French organs and French masters of organ music. And I'm really small, actually, very humble, and he took me on as a student. I was just blown away. And that organ, as you sit at that organ and you have five manuals, and it's not an easy organ to play, totally different, physical instrument to instruments that we have in this country, US and UK. It's physically a very hard instrument to play, but the
Right.
sound is just magic, absolute magic. And when that instrument roars at you, it's just something out of this world.
Well, and I would figure that if you coupled all the manuals together, if you're playing all the manuals together, it would be very, very heavy. It would require different muscles to play.
Does require not all of it is particularly heavy. Some of it is lighter than others, and that's the one thing I did find hard with the instrument, that you have to be ready to adjust your approach to a keyboard, because some keyboards are heavier than others. But I mean, the organ is very, very old. They've restored the organ as to what it was. They haven't changed the instrument. They've just restored it. So
Right.
it's any organist who's studying organ music, or any artist, really should see that instrument. It's just worth the trip. It's a pilgrimage.
Yes. Well, certainly it's a mecca of organ building and organ performance, and it has a long tradition as well, like all the masters that came before, you know.
Yes, I mean it's very famous. If you've been to the church, or if you haven't been to the church, if you go into the building and you go, and then on your right as you go in, there's an old door there, and then that's where people would knock and wait, and you'd be allowed in, and then you would crawl, literally not crawl, that's the wrong word, but you would go round a coil of steps to the top of the choir balcony, and
Right.
it's not a choir balcony, to the
Organ loft.
organ loft, and you'd be pretty puffed out the time you got up there, and you would actually pass Beadle's office, which is a beautiful room with memorabilia. It's absolutely beautiful in there, and then you'd be right by the instrument. And the one thing about that church is in the winter it is cold. I mean, it
Yes.
is really cold. So I mean, you need to be pretty fit to play the instrument, because your hands need to be warm, and if you're freezing, it's hard.
Right. And I mean, and wearing gloves or mittens would definitely affect your playing. You couldn't do that.
No, I've actually never got into wearing gloves without fingertips. I don't like stuff like that. I just like to keep my hands um, as warm as they can be, actually. But one of the hazards, it really is.
Yeah.
What you do, I mean.
Well, and I mean, if you look at the difference between the Saint-Sulpice organ and the one at Notre Dame, the one at Notre Dame, they use a electronic or electro-pneumatic system. The whole console is completely different than the one at Saint-Sulpice, right? So it's a very different experience to play it.
It is, but they're equally exciting and fiery. I mean, there's something about the Notre Dame sound with the big enchantments right above your
Right.
head. It's just something, I mean, really, you cannot be a timid artist to play that instrument. You have to go there and say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to really enjoy this instrument. You can't go in and pussyfoot and just say, oh. You got to really go in and play that organ, and the reward is far beyond anything you could ever want.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I was lucky to get a chance to improvise for like 15 minutes before a concert. And it was incredible. I mean, I have no idea how I managed to get onto the instrument. I think it was something like I kept asking. I think I was very persistent. I spent about 3 hours charming my way through the different people until I finally got to the organ technician, and I said to him, I have this business card from this other organist where I'd been playing in a different part of France and studying with him, and I showed him the card, and he said, okay, you know what, I'm gonna let you play, but first you got to show me what you can do. So he pulled out a very quiet stop on the organ, said play something. I played, and then he's like, okay, we have 15 minutes before the concert, go ahead and improvise. And it was, I would say that's probably one of the more remarkable experiences in my life, because I had no idea that I would get a chance to play. And when I told the family that I was staying with that I want to do this, they said there's no way in hell it's going to happen. And
I believe you.
And it's insane. Like sometimes if you just persist and you make the right connections, then these things open up.
I mean, that's it. You have to persist. You have to be like a dog with a bone. You don't give up. You just make your mind up that you're going to do this. And it's really nice when you get people who help, because I mean, as a student, I used to travel around seeing organs, and there would be a number of places where I was not allowed in to try the organ. And it's, you remember that, it's not a very friendly attitude. I tried really hard in San Diego to accommodate as many people who wanted to try the organ that was humanly possible. And it's important.
It is important, because it seems that a lot of organs are the people that are in charge of them are very gatekeepery. They're like,
Yes. And San Diego was hard because it was a very public venue. So, you had to be, once you play that organ, everybody hears you throughout the park. So you really couldn't let anybody just sit on it and just play something really which you wouldn't want to hear. You had to have a standard of art, organist on there to make it pleasing for people being inflicted with somebody else playing. So, it's a tough one.
Well, and I have a feeling that if you played a heavily dissonant chord for 15 minutes, you know, people are
Oh,
going to start getting really annoyed with you.
oh heavens, yes. I mean, yeah, I mean, I did real way out rock and roll in San Diego, and I can tell you, we had some complaints. I mean, it's not everybody likes all types of music. I mean, I like most music, so there's some things I don't like, but you know, I like most music.
Well, yeah, you seem to be very eclectic in your tastes.
It's like food. I always think music's a bit like food. If you like all sorts of, you know, menus, then you appreciate something more sometimes when you have something that's very special. And to me, music is like that. I like most types of music and most types of organs.
Yeah, right. And that definitely shows because you know in your documentary in your documentary series you document so many different types of instruments. You're not you know you're not shying away from showing instruments that are you know that are unusual or even instruments that are small or large. You're not discriminating. You're just sort of saying if this instrument is interesting, then I'm going to play it and I'm going to show it off,
Yeah, we do
which
large and small and unique organs of the world. I mean that's part of it. You know, they are all very well. There's a lot of miserable organs out there. We got to be honest. I mean, there really are. But you know, but there's a huge amount of interesting organs out there. So yeah, when this all finishes with this pandemic and we can get back to getting on with what we do, then we look forward to traveling again.
yes,
Everything's
absolutely.
everything's just stopped.
And I wanted to ask you about the organ that you're currently playing, the hybrid organ, where it's part electronic and part pipes. Um,
Yes.
and I think that's really interesting because I think you said to me that you sometimes you can't even distinguish between the electronic sounds and the pipe sounds.
No, I can't. It's Viscount Feast's technology, and it's different from a lot of organ technologies. It hasn't recorded the sound. It actually generates the sound. So
Right.
if you have the tracker touch on, which I do on the instrument, it is very sensitive to how you play the instrument.
Hmm.
Yeah, I cannot tell. I mean, I know which is which on the organ, but to be honest, it's very hard to tell a difference between some of the electronics and the pipe sound, which says a lot for for Viscount organs. They really have tailored the instrument to the building. The building has an acoustics of about 4+ seconds. It was interesting the other day. I had a clarinetist in there with me playing,
Hmm.
and the clarinetist actually had more acoustics than the organ did. It must have been where he was standing playing, I guess. But I mean, there's a lot of acoustics in there, so it sounds absolutely beautiful. It really does. Ethereal. The church seats about 1,200 people, and it fills the whole sanctuary. Great.
Carol, I can hear Carrie in the background. Is would it be possible?
Pause. Give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
He's just moving to another room. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, no,
The
no.
microphone that you're using is quite sensitive. It's picking up. It was picking
That's
up.
all right. He's gone to another room. Okay.
So yeah, I think I was reading somewhere that the Viscount organs they actually they have a system which listens to the sounds of the pipes because you know the pipes change with the temperature and stuff. So the modeled sounds are also like tuned and detuned to match the pipes so that there's
Yes. Yeah, so it actually marries together. Otherwise, it could be pretty much a nightmare if it's slightly cold out there and the temperatures change, and it needs to work together, and it does work together. I mean, it's a very successful manufacturer. I think they do a grand job.
and you also you have a practice organ at your place which is also a Viscount organ.
Yes, it's a Sonus 359, and it's a great instrument. I really do. I mean, I can do a lot more things with that instrument that I couldn't necessarily do in the church. I mean, there's a lot more I can use, there's a lot of orchestral sounds built into the instrument, which are great. I mean, so you can pull out the Hammond sounds and bring out the Hammond click and do all the jazz stuff, which, you know,
Right.
you can't all do that in a Catholic sanctuary, which I really would be careful about doing. But so at home, yes, I can really let my hair down and do what I want. And I also have the Viscount Legend, which is the B. You probably know this, the B3 lookalike.
Right.
The
Right.
Legend is just, it's great. I mean, it's good. It has a speaker with it called the Hurricane speaker, which is not that big actually, but mic, and that thing pack a punch. It really is a very powerful instrument. So there's a lot of variety in the music room.
That's great. That's amazing. Well, and I also collect keyboards that are not organs. So I collect synthesizers, I collect workstations of all kinds. And it's actually kind of funny. I'm a little bit anachronistic in some ways because of course I have all my keyboards are connected to the computer, so I have basically an infinite library of sounds. But like I sometimes use keyboards that only accept floppy disks,
Mm.
and so like I've got a whole orchestra of floppy disks that have all these little compositions written on them that are like 5 megabytes or 2 megabytes, and I find actually working within that limitation forces you to be creative because you suddenly have to do so much more with so much less.
It's true. It's very true. I mean, studied at Yale, and the big organ in Wolsey Hall, it didn't have generals, right? They added it after. Sorry, it did have generals. It didn't have levels,
Right.
so you couldn't change a level. And for a major program, you had to make do or change the registrations halfway through the program in the intermission. You had to make do with, and I cannot remember, 16 levels of registrations and all the divisionals, of course. But it makes you think. You can't suddenly press a general for a great pedal. You have to really look around and use your, as much as you can to use as little of that memory up as possible. And that's good for you. That's really good for you. So it just makes you value when you have lots of memory on an instrument. Yeah. When you play, I've played concerts on very small organs.
Mhm.
They're often more hard to do than a very large instrument because you're so limited in what you can do to
Right.
create variety.
Right, right, right. Well, and actually, I've been experimenting with doing things on small mechanical organs, like pulling out the stop halfway or like a quarter of
Yeah,
the way, and you get all
yeah,
these really interesting sort of,
yeah,
microtonal things that you can do.
yeah.
And
The harmonics, you're pulling out the harmonics from the pipe.
that's right. That's exactly right. And well, I was talking to Hans Ola Eriksson from McGill, and he was telling me about an organs where you can actually control the wind pressure, so you can decrease the amount of air in the wind chest. I think it's up to 5%. So you can move that up and down. It's like you have a crescendo pedal or like
Yeah,
the swell pedal where you can actually move that pedal up and down. And it increases and decreases the wind pressure in the chest.
well, that's going to change the character of the sound a huge amount.
It does. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's remarkable because that kind of control of the sound, you can do all
uh,
kinds of things. I mean, you could play ragas on a pipe organ, which is just remarkable,
cool. Very interesting. Wow.
you know. And then of course there's all the different tunings, right? Because we have the mean tone and all
Right.
the different baroque tunings and things
Actually,
like that.
that's one thing I do with the Viscount downstairs. I I play around with that a lot. I use the mean tone, the Princeps, and just it's really interesting to do that and play early music if you're into that. But it actually change, and I use the Baroque sounding instruments down there, so you can totally change. The instrument. It has about 700-800 library of extra sounds in for the organ sounds now in the instrument, and they are very different. So you can pull up a German Gedeck, put it to a Baroque sound, change the temperament and the tuning. I often play the instrument at 432 because it's a
Mm,
much warmer experience, and the organ responds very differently too. Actually, it's interesting. It doesn't sound so forced, and the history behind tunings going down to 432 is really interesting, and it's much gentler on for the human voice as well. It's an interesting thing to read about.
Definitely, definitely. And you know, I think it's quite interesting as well to use sounds that are considered, you know, maybe not normal. Like for example, you know, if you're using um, a certain temperament, there are keys which sound out of tune, you know, and you're told,
Oh
and
yeah,
you're and
oh yeah.
normally you wouldn't play the keys that sound out of tune. But I actually like to play in the keys that sound out of tune because I feel like it adds a whole nother dimension to the sound.
I mean, if you get into this, really, people get into this and they look at the works of Bach, and he used the tunings to highlight different words.
Right.
So if you want to highlight some pain or something like that, he would use a diminished seventh chord, which would sound hugely out of tune on the earlier instruments. So it was like word painting with tuning. So it makes a big difference. I mean, equal temperament that we use is rather bland, you know. I mean, it's just a
Mm.
bit, everything sounds good, but not exceptional, you know. So
Right.
it's an interesting,
Right. And
a bit like life, really, isn't it? You know, people want to do everything the same, right? It's good to be different.
yeah, definitely. And to not limit yourself by the things that you're told, you know, whether it's by academia or whether it's by other organists, or you know, to just sort of say, okay, you know what, if I find it interesting and my nose and my curiosity leads me there, then why not,
Yeah,
why not explore it?
I, I think we all have to, as students, learn the rules and you know, learn the teachings and you know,
Oh,
learn what
definitely.
past. And then, you know, I had so many different teachers and they were all very different. So in the end, I came out thinking for myself. That's what I think anyway.
Mm.
I didn't stay with one teacher hugely a long time. I just had many teachers, all totally very different. So it made me really think about, well, what should I really do and what seems comfortable to me. And as
So,
you get older, you just do what seems comfortable to you.
well, and I think I think that's what makes well, I think that's what makes a prototypical 21st century organist, is that you know, you have all these different teachers, you have all these different schools of thought, and then you suddenly you have to carve out what it is you are, and what it is you want to do from
Yeah.
all those influences, you
Well, I
know.
mean, look at Cameron Carpenter. He is so
Yes.
unique. He does what he
Yes.
wants, and he makes music. I mean, he's an extreme artist, but he really does create great music. I mean, he's a good friend, and I mean, we talk many times. I love what he does. And you know,
Yes.
you mentioned Barbara Denline. She's so unique. I mean, and you know, I love it when artists have a statement with their music, or you know, have a statement with their music. I think it's easier for the listener too. I don't
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, speaking about Cameron Carpenter, like his technique is unbelievable. Like what he does with the pedals is just
I know. He's
you know.
phenomenal. He really is phenomenal. He really
and,
is.
and that bench that he developed, the bench that's, you know,
Yeah,
it's on a stick, so basically
yeah.
you can see the pedals in a way that's
Well, that's like the old theatre organ benches. I mean, they used to be like that. I mean, they would not. It was literally a seat, right? But not a bench. I remember playing those. I never found them very comfortable because to get on and off, they're really hard actually. Once
yeah,
you're on, you're okay.
yeah. Well, that's what most organ benches have going for them. They're actually uh they're they're you know, relatively comfortable, which some of them even have back support.
I know, that's pretty nice. But as long as the bench is adjustable, I'm okay. It's when you get the benches that are not adjustable, and you know, I don't know, it doesn't work if somebody's 6 foot tall and then another organist comes in just under 5 foot. I mean, it's not very comfortable to play.
Yeah. And can you imagine if Glenn Gould was an organist and he brought his little chair, you know, to every organ console, and that would be so bizarre. Like, you know, he'd be so low on the console.
That would be, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like maybe like I mean, I think Cameron has, you know, that custom design bench, but I think most organists don't carry their own benches. They just they don't, they just use whatever's
Yeah.
there.
My hearing just dropped off actually, which is absolutely fine. I just going to say that off. That hurt. Excuse me. Yes, I wouldn't want to carry my own organ bench. That would not be right.
Or your own organ, because apparently like maintaining and paying for the costs of the touring organ that Cameron has
Oh
is
my goodness.
it's unbelievable.
And now at the moment it's in some storage place until things start, getting back to normal. So
Right.
Hopefully things will get back to normal next year. I mean, we're all praying that we can get back to doing what we used to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, being a musician in the COVID era is just it's, well, I mean, at least we have the internet and we can do virtual concerts and things like that, because
Yeah,
you
but
know
I mean, venues aren't making
no,
artists.
they're not making any
Artists
money.
aren't really getting paid.
No.
Venues can't make the money from an artist because they can't have all the seating filled. I mean, I was just going to play at the Royal Festival Hall in London in April during a big jazz program.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen because everything just closed down. So
Right.
I don't think the festival hall is working at the moment because I mean UK is in lockdown now, so
Yes.
it's, I don't know, just hope it gets better soon.
Yeah. No, it's really it's been really hard for musicians and performing artists, dancers, the theater, everything, all these industries that really have taken a huge hit because of COVID. And
Yeah, and culture, sums up a country.
it
Art,
does.
music, film, it sums up a country. And when that stops, we start losing identity, and we need to get the arts back and running. I mean, we've got all these great musicians coming out of conservatoires and universities, and there's no orchestras working at the moment so they can get jobs and things. So yeah, it's got to turn around.
Yeah, and a lot of people see culture as a luxury, which I think is doesn't really make sense, because
Well,
you know
people enjoy watching Netflix, isn't it? So Netflix, yeah, it might be a luxury, but a lot of people watch Netflix. A lot of people watch, TV, and these people need to be paid what they do. So
definitely.
I've never seen it as a luxury, really. Actually, no.
Yeah, which is interesting, because normally, yeah, well, and that's the other thing that is quite interesting, because in the past, historically speaking, there would be the divides in culture. So if you were the bourgeoisie, then that would be a certain kind of culture, and if you were a peasant, that would be a certain kind of culture. and
Yeah.
and one is considered high culture and one is considered low culture. But really, when you think about it, and Bach exemplifies this perfectly, he's drawing inspiration from folk dances and from from things that are considered not sacred, and not high culture. So that
Well,
the
look at Handel. I mean, he was writing opera. I mean, I always thought, probably a lot of people don't agree with me with this, but Handel, like Lloyd Webber, was writing music and was popular in the day, like Lloyd Webber has been now. So, I mean, that appealed to a lot of people, like Lloyd Webber has. I mean, his music is great. So, yeah. I mean, I don't think they had boundaries back then that we have so created and we like to create. I think back then in the 17th century, it was music.
right.
Yeah.
And it was the only, I mean, it was either good music or bad music. But like, if you look at some of the people that have questioned, like, well, the classic example would be Stravinsky, but I mean, there's so many composers along the way who've gone and challenged the norms, and gotten a lot of, I mean, even Bach, right? Like, Bach used to fight with loads of different people because he wasn't fitting in with their norms, and he
And
would be
Beethoven too. I mean, his
right.
like late string quartets. I mean, people couldn't make head or tail of them, really. I mean, yeah. I mean, now and again, things need to be stirred up. I think.
Yes. Yes, I agree, and and things like atonality, which people think is an invention of the 20th century. I was listening to one of the preludes from the Well-Tempered Clavier, and I actually heard this passage, which was repeated over and over, which actually was a tone roll.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, so wait. Bach was making tone rolls like, back then, and we think we're so hip when we do that now. And I was like, well, I guess that brings into question who really invented the tone roll.
I don't know, I think probably Kate, I mean, Bach had developed so much. And I think, yeah, I mean, when you've been composing all your life, you're still creating incredible music, you are going to go out there and start creating music that's more extreme.
Mm.
I mean, just to satisfy yourself as an artist. So his late music was so mathematical that I've heard that's really where Schoenberg took over
Right.
from late Bach, which makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of atonal counterpoint actually sounds like Bach when you start deconstructing it,
Yes, yes,
which you wouldn't expect, but that's what it sounds like. Um,
yes.
and what do you make of the idea of the master and the apprentice? That model of learning. Like, for example, when Bach went to study with Buxtehude, or like your stint with Daniel Roth, at Saint Sulpice. What do you think about that model of learning as opposed to like the university? Like doing a bachelor's degree at a university, for example.
Um, I think it's whatever the individual craves. I
Mm.
mean, I didn't want to go to university. I wanted to go to a conservatoire
Hmm.
because I wanted to emphasize performance. I didn't want to teach, so I was always wanted to play, play on the stage, play music on the stage. So
Right.
I picked out relevant teachers. I think, you know, it's what the individual wants. If somebody wants to go into university work and teach and that route, then the university work is great. If you're going for the concert platform, you do need your basic qualifications, because like now, I mean, what are people doing now? You need to be able to fall back and do something else, teach, play in a big church. So you do need those qualifications. But for me, as I don't know, as other artists, you pick out some. A lot of people study with Mary Clara Lamb. I didn't actually study for. I wanted to study with Daniel Roth. So it's whatever the individual wants would be my answer to that interesting question.
Right. And this idea of being qualified as an artist, I've been asking this question: what does it mean to be qualified as an artist? What and I'm not questioning these things to burn down bridges, or or shake things up. I'm asking these questions from almost a curatorial or even a critical lens.
Well, the old saying is you're as good as your last gig is so true. If you're an artist, right? You play concerts. If you're applying for a job, you've got a committee of people selecting a new organist, a choir director. They
Mhm.
are impressed. They want to see things on paper that they can relate to. If you've got relevant bachelor's, master's, doctorate, or whatever, they're
Right.
going to relate to that. They don't really know about playing concerts in certain places because they know what qualifications are. So it's good for an artist to have both, I would say.
Right. And I mean, you're a doctor. I mean, you did your
I got
doctorate.
I got to thank my dad for that, because he always said you got to get that doctorate, because I wasn't sure if that was what I wanted to do, but I went to Manhattan School of Music, which I'm so glad I did, and a lot of it was on performance, which
Right.
suited me. I wanted to study performance, and it was great.
Well, and that's very interesting that you point out that distinction between what people can relate to, like, as if they're a non-musician, or if they for them it's the piece of paper that's most important, whereas for you, it might be playing the Cavalier Call at Saint Sulpice. That to you is more like more tangible, but to them the piece of paper, your doctorate, is maybe more tangible to them.
Yes, I mean, and if you're applying for a job, you need that piece of paper, because they don't know anything else, and it's fair enough. I mean, I don't know about other things. I would be looking at qualifications too if I had to be in that position. So, it makes sense.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because a lot of artists that sort of took the route where they don't have formal qualifications, like sort of like Oscar Peterson, or Thelonious Monk, or some of these jazz greats, um, you know, um, or even Herbie Hancock, for example. I mean, he's a professor at UCLA, I think, and I'm not sure that he went to university, but the reason I bring them up is because they took an alternate route. Like I think Oscar Peterson dropped out of high school,
Mm.
but his father said to him, if you're gonna drop out and you're gonna be a pianist, you can't just be any pianist. You have to be the best pianist.
Well, he
You know,
was. He really was.
he really was, yeah.
I mean, he was phenomenal. I mean, oh my goodness me. I've got some arrangements of his downstairs in the music room. Oh, great guy. Used to caress those keys.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
And
It's
and
a lovely smile.
yes, and the legend is that the only person that could intimidate Oscar Peterson was Art Tatum.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah.
And
But
and
his exuberance in his personality, you could tell before he even played it was going to be great because of his personality and the way he smiled and the way he lived his music.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people say that because he had a bigger hand and he could span, I think it was an 11th easily.
Wow.
He could do some walking bass lines, which most other pianists would just not be able to do because
I can stretch a ninth, and I'm just a ninth. I don't have the biggest of hands, and that is that would be great to stretch 11th.
yeah, well, I'm in the same boat. I also have small hands, so I sometimes I listen to the arrangements and I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that kind of stuff, but really there's no way. And maybe that's why us as organists were lucky, because we don't really need to do that kind of stuff. We have all the stops, so we can play all the we can
Yeah.
play all these sounds
You
without.
can transcribe it to the organ. Actually, you can play the bass and the pedals, and fill in with left-handed chords. It's actually quite a lot easier.
Yes, yes. But some people say that certain organists play with a pianistic technique, whatever they mean by that. And I think what they mean by that is that they play, they they don't, I don't know, like, to
They
me.
don't know, they don't know how to use the pedals, is what they mean. I mean, you get a lot. No, I think that's it. I mean, a lot of pianists go to the organ. I mean, especially when it's a local church, and they want an organist. They use a pianist. They don't know how to use the pedals. That's why you get some, combinations on organs that actually take the bass pedal up to the lower keyboard, so it gives them a bass line. But they don't know. I mean, but it wouldn't take them long to learn.
Right. And do you play the pedals with shoes or barefoot, or is it a
No,
combination?
I've got dance shoes that I've used for
Right.
years, physio dance shoes, and they're beautiful. I mean, I've worn out a lot of them. They have suede underneath, so you can slide, but you don't slip. They have not a huge heel, but that doesn't worry me because I just make my ankles work. And they're great. They're really delicate shoes, and I love them. Can't walk anywhere in them other than on the organ because they wouldn't last.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Well, yeah, and I think Cameron also uses dance shoes, Cuban dance shoes
So
on
does
the.
Barbara Dennerline. Actually, Barbara Dennerline and we use the same shoes. Not the same pair, but the same design. Same design, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so the fashion element of performance, like what you wear on stage. How do you decide what to wear on stage? Is it a mood thing? Is it like what's your like how do you really figure out what you're gonna wear on stage?
But it depends where you're playing. I
Well,
mean,
that's also true. Yeah, like if you're playing in church, you're not gonna wear certain
no,
things.
yeah, that's right. I mean, I like to. You got to be slightly glittery and fun and stuff like that. It's got to be different from everyday clothes.
Yes.
So I have a collection of stuff that I enjoy playing and I feel comfortable in, and I can jump off the normal bench easily and not worry about. I used to wear long dresses, but they got so much in the way and just moving around. So I just, I like to feel comfortable, but I like the glitter too. I like, cute outfits. So it's hard to pick. I couldn't say where I get these things. I just happen to see something and think, aha, that works. And I go for that.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, because that's exactly what I do. Is like I'll find an outfit and I'll be like, this is an interesting stage outfit, and
Yeah.
and it's like, this might work for this occasion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but it's amazing people remember what you wear. So I mean, you got to be. It's harder for women, I think, because we are kind of you tend to wear the same sort of thing as a guy, don't you? I mean, if you know, I mean, I'm trying not to be careful what I say, but but I mean, women can wear dresses and different things like that. People do remember they say things. I think, oh my, I shouldn't be wearing that one again. But
well, and so that's the thing, right? Like men don't have to stay trapped in that that
yeah,
always wearing a tuxedo or always wearing tails. Men can shake it up too. Like why not? I mean, I've worn dresses to performances. I've worn cat suits, all kinds of stuff. Like I'm not afraid to like shake up that oh,
well, why
this is
not?
what.
Why not?
And like why men and women can both be androgynous with their stage outfits, like and
Well, it is down in the end entertainment, isn't it? I mean, we can be as snobby as we like, but in the end, people pay to go to see you perform, and it's entertainment. So it's not education. I mean, it's entertainment. So you have to, I think, as an artist, remember you're giving people a good time. And my motto for myself is I want people to leave the venue feeling better than before they went in.
right.
I mean, it's not just the music, it's what you say, it's how it's the comments between pieces of repertoire and
Yes.
stuff, having some fun. I mean,
Yeah, the jokes in between.
yeah, I mean, just making it fun, so that people enjoy themselves. If I'm not, they're not, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when you're preparing for a concert, do you normally do you practice the repertoire extensively, ahead of time and sort of work out all the stuff, or do you ever sort of leave more room for spontaneity and you say, okay, I'm gonna listen to this piece once and then I'm just gonna go and play it. So what's the.
I give an outline. I give an outline of a program because, as I found out, traveling around, that you get a specification of an instrument and it tells you something.
Right.
Like but it doesn't really tell you what the soul of the instrument is.
Hmm.
So I leave holes in the program that I can bring in extra stuff that just to me that suit the instrument and just work them in. So I like to. It's really about connecting with the instrument and the venue.
Right.
So I bring in extra music. Yeah, but I've always timed every program. I mean, I will work a program out, time it, 38 minutes or whatever plus chat and for one half or something, and then I'll have extra room in there for something else. So I never like playing too long. I think when people go over the time, people are tired. I mean, there's only so much you can take. I mean, people play really long programs. It's less is more, right? Less is more in life. So if you go away with people wanting a little bit more, then I think you've been successful.
I agree, and like also like if you get an encore, to play an encore that's short enough that if the
And
audience really wants to, they can ask for another encore rather than
right, and not boring either. I mean,
yes,
not boring encore. I mean, it's the last piece is what they remember generally.
yes,
So if the last piece is the most boring piece, well, then you've got a problem.
yeah, yeah. Just 1 second. I think my mom's making carrot juice in the background, and it's feeding into the mic. I'm gonna tell her not to.
Okay. Can I just do something? I just be back in 1 minute, all
Of
right?
course, yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay.
No worries. All these little things that happen.
I know.
Um, I wanted to ask you if you're an audiophile, are you concerned with the fidelity of sound? Like, do you like even when you listen to sound, like, do you collect vinyl, CDs, or is your collection digital? What's your
No,
preference?
I don't actually. I mean, the only thing I'm really concerned about is when people record an instrument for me and it sounds like the way it should sound. I mean, I listen to loads of stuff on YouTube actually, because I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you can, and there's some good stuff and there's some awful stuff out there, but there's a lot of good stuff. No, I don't collect vinyl. I got a huge CD collection that I don't really need anymore, you know.
Well, and I also don't collect CDs or tapes or vinyl, but I do like collecting things that are recorded in extremely high quality. So like I have a hard drive that's just dedicated to these really big recordings. That some recordings are even 5 to 10 gigabytes of a particular sound or a particular sound bite.
Mm,
And so sometimes I collect sounds to sample, so like for example, I've got a set of Tibetan singing bowls that I've recorded in really high quality, which then I can trigger on my keyboard. um,
yeah,
and so for these sounds, I want to record them with as much space as possible,
yeah,
because then it sounds really lifelike.
yeah. I mean, I get that actually. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're obviously very into a lot of sound stuff, which brilliant.
And that sort of, I mean, when you're thinking about the organ and the purity of the sound of the organ, like, having a certain kind of microphone at your disposal, whether it's a ribbon microphone or a condenser microphone, and being able to set it up in such a way that you can capture things that are really hard to capture, like for example the chiff of an individual pipe
Yeah.
you
And the
know
bass too. I mean, the bass can be overpowering, especially when people are live streaming now at venues. It's such an issue. Does the instrument sound right being
mm,
live streamed? I mean,
mhm.
it's a big issue now that people are trying to deal with. I mean, we're dealing with that in St. Thomas Aquinas, where I'm the director of music, and making sure the instrument sounds good. It sounds great in the church, but it's got to sound good when people are listening from wherever they're listening.
Right. And
Yeah,
it's hard because some people have really incredible speakers that they're listening to it on.
yeah,
Other people are listening on, like, on headphones. Other people are listening on these little earbuds. So how
right.
how how do you tailor the sound so that
I know. I guess you have to have a. We've always had that problem of producing DVDs and stuff. That you record a major organ and somebody plays it through a tiny little speakers, and then they think, well, it doesn't sound very good. I mean, well, come on, give us a break. You have to match the quality of the instrument with what we've recorded,
right,
and it's hard. I guess you have to go for a sound that will be compromised and work with everything.
right, right, which is so hard. It's like trying to get a picture that's really high definition, like a 4K picture, and looking at it on a flip phone. Like,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, Kerry's brilliant at all this stuff like that. He knows what to do. I just tend to deal with music, but he really does take a lot of trouble with all the editing and filming and the recording stuff, which I'm very lucky to have.
yeah, yeah, that's very nice that you have that. you know um, and yeah, I think a lot of digital organs, like Allen organs or Rogers organs, they're not very nice to play, because this it sounds like an appliance, you know um
Yeah.
which to me is not the point, because you want it to sound like a musical instrument.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm attracted to Viscount. They create the sound as you're playing it. It's not a pre-recorded sound. It's a world that, I mean, hybrid organs I think are the future actually. I mean, it's just my view, but I think people will always want pipes, but to build a major pipe organ you've got to have a huge amount of money to
Yeah,
do that. And,
definitely.
so an instrument that does both is really a good way to go.
Right. It's a compromise. But it's a good compromise to make. Like, I mean, I think the organ at Maison Symphonique, which is the concert hall in Montreal, it's built by Cassavant, and I think it costs something like $5 million, and it's a four manual instrument. And I think it has maybe 5,000 pipes.
Mm.
So really, can you imagine if you were building an organ in the 1930s and you had $5 million? You know.
I mean, I was thinking of Atlantic City actually. If you had that sort of, that sort of money, I don't know what Atlantic City cost when it was built. A huge amount of money. I mean, what it's worth now is phenomenal.
Right.
So that it's a great organ actually.
And
Lovely organ.
you've also played at the Wanamaker's organ.
Yes, great. I mean, they're unique instruments. They're one-offs.
Yes.
So somewhere like that sort of piece, but I think there's something very interesting about Atlantic City. I mean, it's when I played there last year,
Mm-hmm.
the combination system became working a week before I played. I mean, it had
That's
never
huge.
never worked, and I was actually dreading playing this concert, thinking, how the heck am I going to do all these time changes, not time, sound changes
Yeah.
with an instrument that size, but because I played transcribed Beethoven's Fifth for the instrument, for the organ, and it worked. I mean, I was able to do something with that concert that really I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed playing that concert in the end, so it turned out very well.
And that organ has the extended keyboards. Like the keyboards are not the regular compass.
Yes, yes, yeah. It's It's something else. It's actually a very comfortable organ to play.
Really.
Yes, I mean, surprisingly, you look at it and you think, oh, that's rather large. It is. I mean, but you sit in it, it's like sitting in something and you're engulfed by the whole instrument, and it's very cozy.
Well,
Very,
it looks like a cockpit of an airplane, and that's probably what it feels like.
yeah, but it's actually very comfortable to play. I was so surprised. I mean, I was like, wow, this is actually very nice.
Yeah, I mean, it looks ergonomic. Like the top keyboards are tilted at a certain angle, so
Yeah, I mean, you're playing like this with an instrument, so it's kind of strange to play like that.
Mm-hmm.
We taught to play like that, but it is a very large instrument, and
Yeah.
the acoustics in there are just divine. I mean, it really is a musical organ, because you usually associate with big, not with beauty. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't. It's actually beautiful, the sounds that came out of that instrument. I just really enjoyed it. We enjoyed rehearsing and enjoyed performing on it. It was great.
And how many manuals is too many?
Well, I guess you don't need any more than that one. I can't remember. Is it 8 manuals there? I think
It's
eight.
seven.
Seven. Well, 7 or 8, whatever.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
eight. Well, eight counting the pedal board.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, can you imagine if that organ, and I think there's two consoles. There's a one with seven
Yes.
keyboards and there's one with five keyboards.
Yes. Yes.
And
I didn't play the smaller one, if you can say that, but I mean, I just played the one that was in the main hall.
right. Yeah.
And the Kimball theatre organ. That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
That is lovely. In the ballroom, I did
Yeah.
a performance on that when I was there as well. Beautiful instrument, gorgeous, lovely.
Yeah. Well, and theater organs are such different instruments. In like the way it's voiced, obviously of all the percussions and all the trap stuff. Glockenspiels
Yeah.
and vibraphones and pianos and all kinds of other stuff attached.
Well, they were there for the silent movies, so they could accompany the silent movies with all
That's
the
right.
percussive sounds, and that's why they were there. But they became a part of the organ that was developed into a real orchestra of instruments. So great. Oh, I grew up playing theatre organs and enjoy playing them when I get a chance.
Yeah. Definitely. And do you enjoy improvising? I take it you enjoy improvising as well.
Yeah, I do. I mean, Kerry was a rock and roll drummer, right? So we got a drum kit downstairs in the music room. Previous house,
this,
full on
this
it.
this music room sounds so much fun. Like like it sounds like you got all kinds of toys there.
Oh yeah, the drum kit is great. I mean, that's his domain. So yeah, the drum kit and the legends. It's great fun. It really is. Well, it should be fun. I mean, that's to me the most important thing. You should enjoy what you do.
Yeah. And I think it's actually Barbara who does this thing where she has like an upright bass sound on the pedals where
Mm,
she has it connected to a module. I forget what the module is, but it's like a
mm.
module that has like an upright bass sound. And
Wow.
so it sounds it's like you don't even need to have a trio anymore. You can just be organ and drums and you've got the upright bass, you've got the organ, and you've got the drums, you know?
Right, right. And there's a good pizzicato bass on the Viscount too, actually.
Oh
So
yeah?
double bass, yeah, double bass, and if you tweak the sound of it, you can make it, just to get the sound you want.
Yeah.
Really very effective, very effective.
And do you have
So
more exotic sounds? Like do you have sounds like like maybe a hammered dulcimer or saxophone or things.
I I've got a Roland Integra with, and I pull out the saxophone from that sometimes, which is
Right.
there's lots of saxophones on that one, which come through the instrument, and they're touch sensitive with the Viscount, which is a must. It's very important. So yeah, there's a ton
Yeah.
of sounds from that
Right.
library of instrument box, whatever you call it.
Right. Right. And something that most people don't realize is when you have a synthesizer or even just most electronic keyboards, they have a joystick where you can pitch bend and add modulation and all that kind of stuff. So like, yeah, I mean, like, can you imagine if you had that with an organ, if you had like a little joystick or some way to like pitch bend, you know?
Well, some of the actual old electronic organs used to have that, where you could do um, like a trombone slide. You could do that with them. Yeah, I mean, some of them do have that facility. Not on the Legend, that doesn't have it. But the Legend really isn't geared. The Legend is really the traditional '60s Hammond sound. That's what it does. So
Right.
it's not looking to do anything else. But yeah, that'd be cool.
um when you're performing in different acoustic situations, do you sort of get a chance to like try out the instrument and try out the repertoire ahead of time,
Yeah,
or because
I require 2 full days before I play. I mean,
but do you really have the luxury of that wherever you go?
I,
Because
I make it the luxury. It's not luxury.
well, no, I know it's actually it's a requirement,
It
but
is because you cannot use the instrument unless you know it. And it's like getting to know somebody. So I said,
yeah,
I need to rehearse on that instrument if you want a concert that I'm happy with. So I get 2 days and I set it up, get used to the building, because it's not just the organ, it's the acoustics in the building that take a while to get used to.
right,
And yeah, I mean, I don't think I wouldn't play unless I had that time. I mean, I just have to have it. I mean, pianists need to set up a piano in a room and they need to play that piano, get used to the room. Imagine with an organ, you get used to the room, but then you need to set up all the registrations, get used to the sound of the instrument. It takes a long time, it takes hours to set it up. And then, your hearing gets a little tired. So I go back to it, the next session and I change the registrations a bit because I just hear it differently. It takes several attempts to get the registrations right. But
yeah.
I don't mind. That's what I do.
And do you have any instruments, favorite instruments? I know it's a cliched question, but do you have any favorite organs, that really stand out in your memory?
Yes. There's an organ in Luxembourg, in Dudelange. Dudelange is a lovely name. There's a great organ there. I've recorded on actually a couple of times. Gloucester Cathedral,
Mm-hmm.
UK, associated with Harry Potter.
Yes, yes, of course.
Uh, of course, Notre Dame and Saint Sulpice.
Yes.
I mean, they just, this country, let me think, there's a lot in Riverside, New York, it's a great instrument. Walt Disney Concert Hall, Atlantic City.
Hmm.
Those stand out to me.
And you've also played Westminster Abbey,
Yes.
and I think I think there are enchimade trumpets there that have been disconnected because apparently they were too loud, and the queen thought that they were too loud.
I don't know.
Um,
I remember the enchimades of St Paul's Cathedral, and they would, the enchimades were literally over the gift shop.
right.
So, you know, you
So
weren't,
I might be wrong then. It might not be Westminster Abbey. It
it
might
might
actually.
be St Paul's. I mean, and when I was a student, I played like midday recitals at St Paul's, and
Uh-huh.
we weren't allowed to use the enchimade because the cathedral was open. And there'd be these unassuming tourists buying a postcard for Aunt Flo somewhere else in the world. Suddenly, these huge, great big enchimades. You weren't allowed to do that. It was probably there actually.
if if I was playing, you can almost guarantee I would have used those pipes and used it to scare some old lady half to death. You know, like do like a viral YouTube video where you like set up a camera, and and some random person just comes, unassumingly walking along, and then you just play this massive chord and just catch the reaction.
You could get sued for that, I'm sure, actually, because it could be devastating, actually. You play a chord there, right? Take your hand off the keyboard, and then it would just come back to you. It was huge delay on that organ, huge delay, and it was tricky organ to play.
And there's also there's maybe it's St. Paul's, maybe it's another place, but I believe there's some organ pipes in the dome
Oh
of the
yeah,
building.
that's St Paul's Cathedral. That's St Paul's. There's you got the chancel organ, which is the oldest part of the organ that goes back to the 1600s.
Right.
You have the dome instrument, which is literally in the dome. You have the West End, I think the West End organ. I mean, there's just organ everywhere in that building because it's so huge. I
Right.
mean, you got people sitting everywhere. So the thing is, you have to combine most of the instrument together and play it. I mean, so you have to you're playing it, and it's a huge time lag between yourself, playing the keyboard and hearing the sound. So you have to just slightly disconnect your sound at the tactile feel and be in the building and listen to it. So it's a tricky one. That's a very tricky organ to play. Always need somebody to come along with you and stand under the dome and tell you what it sounds like because you cannot hear. It's just huge. Oh, hello.
Changing my glasses.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it probably allows for all kinds of dialogue between the different organs. You can probably make this. It's like you can have different parts coming from different organs, which
Yeah.
could make it sound like, like, uh, what's the word? I'm blanking on the word right now. Um, when you have a di.
Antiphonal.
Yes, that's right. Of course, that's the word. Yes, thank you. Yeah, you could have all these weird antiphonal phrases going back and forth from the different organs.
Yeah. I mean, I think about 4 years ago, John Scott died. He was the orchestra director of music there for years. He came out to New York City and took over St. Thomas Fifth Avenue.
Hmm.
As a student, I would go and listen to him play there because he was the one who knew that organ. I mean, anybody visiting that organ and rehearsing on it, you can't get it. You just can't get it in 10 hours of playing it, getting used to it. It takes years. He knew how to use that organ. You would hear it, and you'd hear parts coming out from different parts of the building, which nobody else could do but him. He's a fantastic artist, really great man.
And I really like celeste stops. Where you have different ranks, like flat, sharp, and natural. Um, so do you have any particular favorite organ stop or particular favorite sound that you like?
I like harmonic flutes. To me, I just love a flute that just sings in the building.
Yeah.
There's a great one in St. Thomas Aquinas. Beautiful flute, really is.
Yeah.
I like um, choir Angelica, Bois Celeste, and strings, warm strings, not too sizzly, not too sizzly. Of course, you can change all this character with the Viscount. You can get rid of, you can choose a different Celeste, I mean, basically, but you can take out the sizzle. And I love that sort of French warmth foundation sound. But, you know, then I love a good tutti sound, but not too, you know, I don't like shrill reeds and corporate
Right.
reeds. I mean, I will, if I can edit that sound, just take out that sort of sound that you get sometimes
Yes.
from organs. But I love that call growl from an instrument because I've stood so many organ lofts and heard the growl of a call, and it's a wonderful experience.
And there are some sounds which are theoretical. Like for example, the lowest sound that you can get on an organ is a 64-foot sound, with a physical 64-foot pipe. But I know there's people who've been experimenting with 128-foot stops and 256-foot stops. But they're not actual physical pipes, if that's what you're wondering. You know,
You're not going to hear the mic. I mean, you're just going to feel the vibration, I guess.
That's right. That's right. Because it's in the subsonic range,
Right.
or in the infrasonic range. Yeah.
Right.
Like for example, you would need a certain kind of subwoofer to hit those kinds of frequencies. It's a thick pin rotary woofer where it's basically a coil attached to a fan. So it's actually not even, it's not a cone. It's not a speaker cone as you would imagine it. It's a fan which is
Right.
attached to a coil, to a magnetic coil, and that's how it makes sound. It's actually literally moving air. It's like the propeller on an airplane.
Right.
How
Right.
when it goes faster or slower, it changes the pitch. Well, it's
Yeah.
the same thing, the same concept with these speakers.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. But
Yeah,
you don't really hear it in a combination of sound, do you?
that's right. Yeah, it's very unmusical on its own. Like you would never, well, I would use it, on its own to scare people, or to, like do like, kind of like, John Cage's composition, as slow as possible, and like imagine if you just had that sound for, I don't know, 10 days. Nobody, I don't think anybody would sit in the hall for 10 days and listen to that. I mean, unless they were mad. But but like,
No, man, they might.
but like this kind of thought experiment, like, where these kinds of thought experiments, are very interesting to me. Where you're literally creating a space. It's not even so much a composition anymore. You're actually creating a sonic space,
That's it. Yeah,
that people can enter and exit, and just like you'd enter and exit a room.
right. That's very interesting to get your mind around that, actually.
Yeah, because then you're questioning the ontology of music. You're really stretching. Is it music anymore? Is it?
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. Right. Cool. Are we good?
Yes, we are. Thank you so much for this. This has been a really interesting conversation. I've enjoyed it very much.
You're very. I kind of not look at you on the screen, but you're very interesting. You know a lot about sounds and things like that, which I must say, you interested me in things that I guess I'm more interested in, the repertoire and stuff that I spent all my life doing. I've not really thought a huge amount about what you were just saying. Actually, it's interesting.
Well, I think it's I think even for somebody that's focused on repertoire, thinking about different ways to interpret that repertoire, that
Yes. Yes.
like for example, when Messiaen was making his spontaneous compositions, or organ symphonies, he was inspired by bird song, for example,
Right.
so so really, like, different ways of thinking about things will put, it's like if you use a different camera lens, you see things differently. So in the same way with sound, if you think about like a Bach fugue, but like, let's say, in a whole different way, like you might never consider using a vox humana, detuned, into, I don't know, into microtones for a Bach fugue, but why not? You know,
That
so
was well. I mean, Bach was so adventurous. I mean, I actually played the organ that he designed in the Trost organ.
Have you ever been to Leipzig, by the way?
Yes. Yes, I'm trying. Not far from there, on Eastern Germany was the organ he designed, the Trost organ, which I sat down and played, and it's untouched as to how he left it. And there are orchestral stops on that. I mean, he was so ahead of his time. Yeah, I've never heard the organ at St. Thomas Leipzig actually in the flesh, and because it's not the original organ there anymore. But
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's not the original organ. It's been changed, and yeah.
Very shame. But
Yeah.
well, what can you say?
Well, and that's the difference between the Saint-Sulpice organ and the Notre Dame organ, because the Notre Dame organ has been added to and modified in certain ways. Um, you know, whereas I think they've tried to retain. Well, I guess both instruments retain the characters because they're always building on what was already there. They're not they're not changing.
Yes, yes. I mean, thank goodness we still got the Saint-Sulpice organ because we can really see it as it was. I mean,
Yes.
it's a great window into the history of Cavaillé actually. You see that organ. Saint Ouen is probably my favorite. You were asking about favorite organ. Saint
Yes.
Ouen, that's a gorgeous organ. It is a sad organ to me because it's the building is not used anymore.
Uh-huh.
The organ hasn't had any decent money spent on it for years. So it's in awful condition, and that was probably his best instrument, is one of his last instruments, and it's the sound on that instrument is just out of this world, but it's it's not being looked after. Great shame.
Which is very unfortunate because when these instruments fall into disrepair, sometimes you cannot recover it. You can't get back to what the original condition of the instrument was.
Oh, it would take a huge ton of money to do that, and people don't have that sort of money at the moment. They've got more pressing needs than repair instruments, but it's a great shame.
Well, and have you ever played organ duets where there's instruments that have multiple consoles and you can play with?
Yes, yeah. I played organ duets with 3 people on a bench, which is not very comfortable. I mean, I mean, it's great playing organ duets with 2 organs in the same venue. I've done that actually, which is great. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for this, and I'll let you know. I'll let you know once it's uploaded. I'll send you the link, and I mean, if you want to upload it as well, you're welcome to do that because you've also recorded it.
Are you gonna edit the interruptions out, right?
Well, yeah, I can definitely edit the interruptions out, but actually, I think they're quite interesting. To me, they add to they add.
Oh, right. Whatever. I don't mind. Because I left the room for a while. Whatever you want. Okay.
Well,
all right.
Hey, silence is just as important as as what's said.
There you are. Remember music. That's important.
Yeah, because
thank you.
Because we're decorating the silence, aren't we?
Yes. There we are. Okay. We just needed that, very low subwoofer bass from the organ. That would have been perfect. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this, and I really appreciate your time.
Our pleasure. Talk to you again.
Okay, bye.
Bye.